It's up to you, New York, New York.
How we doing, guys? Welcome back to another episode of the Richie Hicks Jr. Sports Podcast here on YouTube. I want to go over the week that was in professional sports. We're going to start here. A story, sad story, 10 years in the making. Pritchard Colon, fighter from the beautiful island of Puerto Rico, unfortunately passed away at the young age of 33 this past week. We're going to back it up. 2015, Mr. Colon was involved in what ultimately was the final fight of his career. And the ramifications of this fight was that Colon was repeatedly getting hit in the back of the head, which is supposed to be an immediate foul and ultimate disqualification if the behavior of the opponent continues. In a mode of defense and trying to make things even, Colon later went for a low blow on his opponent. He was charged 2 points. The rabid punching behind the back of the head never ceased. And before the fight was over, Colon's gloves were cut while complaining to the ring doctor that his visibility wasn't the best and that he was dizzy. It was an epic fail on the part of the ring doctor, an epic fail on the part of the referee. Post-fight, Colon collapsed, ultimately had to have emergency surgery on his brain as he had multiple brain bleeds. And sadly, after being in a vegetative state where he was only able to essentially breathe for himself as his parents had to take care of him round the clock, he sadly passed away. Why is this important outside of a tragedy 10 years later? I think anyone that respects the sweet science needs to look at this fight, needs to examine what the referee didn't do. And I believe that criminal charges should have been filed not only against Colon's opponent, but against the referee, also against the fight doctor. A very dark night for professional boxing. And my heart goes out to his family because that night changed everyone's lives for the worse. You know, you're talking about a way of living when you have a world-class fighter who's providing for his family. And in a terrible night, things turn over where he has to be taken care of by the people that he was supporting. Rest in peace, Pritchard Colon, damn good fighter. Tommy John, a man which, oddly enough, his name is synonymous with the injury, as he was the first known baseball pitcher to undergo Tommy John surgery, which obviously bears his name. Phenomenal career spanning almost a quarter century. He recently left a heartfelt message to baseball media, baseball fans, the New York Yankees fans, all baseball fans alike, Tommy John played for two iconic organizations during the course of his career, the Los Angeles Dodgers and, of course, the New York Yankees. I think this is one of the more controversial Hall of Fame snubs in the history of the sport, as his win totals, in my opinion, should certify Hall of Fame candidacy. This is a man that played in an era where the bullpens were not used as frequently. Best credit to the game, humility, humbleness, always giving back to the game. And even in his waning days when he was in hospice care, just a true humble soul. This was a guy that really was a credit to the game of Major League Baseball. Yes, sir, Nunez. He only wore the two main hats, in my opinion, the two most iconic teams in sports, in baseball, I should say, Los Angeles Dodgers, New York Yankees. Yeah, I think it's crazy when you look at Tommy John's win totals that he's not in the Hall of Fame. That is one of the most dubious snubs outside of maybe Shoeless Joe Jackson, maybe Thurman Munson. This is up there, Dale Murphy. But Tommy John most definitely made an impact. And I think one of his quotes, and I'm paraphrasing, that I've always appreciated about him is that he said when he made it big into the major leagues, his father told him, never forget that you are still a very regular person given where we are from. And I think that Tommy John took being humble and not acting like he was better than anyone very seriously. A grand loss for the game of Major League Baseball. Absolutely. Rest in peace, Tommy John. All right, I'm Richie. Let's get to it. On today's show, we're going to be hitting on former Phoenix Sun and New York Knick Amare Stoudemire making the Naismith Memorial Hall of Fame. I know that there's been a mixed bag of comments coming in on whether or not he was worthy of the Hall of Fame. We're going to start with Amare. All right, stat. Six-time All-NBA team. One of the more dynamic finishers in the league prior to a lot of his knee injuries. Came over as the first cog during what would eventually be the Carmelo Anthony era. And truthfully, I feel that he was MVP worthy his first year in New York. A support level player during the Carmelo Anthony era when they had Steve Novak, Tyson Chandler, Jason Kidd, among others. And I want to hit on his Hall of Fame candidacy. While I'm super happy for Amare, and he was one of my favorite Knicks during that era, I am a little puzzled why Amare gets into the Hall of Fame before a Sean Kemp, before a Penny Hardaway. Those are two guys that stand out to me that need to be in the Hall of Fame. Penny Hardaway was a guy that was so damn good in his peak and his prime that the GOAT Michael Jordan even wore his sneakers. Penny was an All-NBA first teamer two different times. Of course, the crash of his career happened kind of quickly. But for a 4-year peak, Penny Hardaway was that dude. And I do believe that when I've seen some of the guys that get into the Naismith Hall of Fame, it's not just NBA. It's a total life of basketball. There are many ways to get into the Hall of Fame. But given the way the standards, in my opinion, have dropped a little, I'm okay with Stat getting in. I mean, I'm happy for him. He's a guy that was very much a hard worker during his time with the New York Knicks. But I do question if the standards are a little questionable. Because when I think of the Hall of Fame, I think of the best of the best. And Amare was not like a celebrated high school or college athlete on that level, like, say, a Jabbar, or many before that. But NBA Rookie of the Year in his rookie season with the Phoenix Suns, had to change his game a bit when he got to New York, as he was not as explosive. Took a backseat to Carmelo Anthony for the better good of the team. And many argue, were it not for a Carmelo Anthony injury in the Indiana series that season, perhaps the Knicks would have been able to topple the Heatles, as they matched up very well with them. Amare Stoudemire ultimately ended his basketball journey playing in Israel in his final season. And he frequents Madison Square Garden during the Knick playoff runs. So congratulations to Amare Stoudemire. the class of this year's Naismith Memorial Hall of Fame induction ceremony. And I got to say, he had a great speech. Truly, truly a great speech. All right, we're going to move it along. Want to hit on yesterday's preseason action in MetLife Stadium. New York Giants taking on the Minnesota Vikings. That's Odell Beckham Jr., guys. Did we ever think in a million years we would see Odell Beckham Jr. rocking a New York Giants uniform again? It's crazy how things turn around. A modest 2 catches for 6 yards, but a huge pop when Beckham checked into the game. Something that was encouraging was seeing Odell Beckham get behind the defense, albeit Jameis Winston missed him. Some other news and notes of the game. Jackson Dart was sacked twice. The Giants fell 13-10. Third string backup quarterback Allen threw 2 costly picks. It's the preseason. The results are not really what I'm looking for. I'm looking for health. I'm looking for progression from the team. Jackson Dart, a little bit of a scare, made a trip to the infamous blue tent. He came out and immediately threw a strike to rookie out of Notre Dame, Malachi Fields, putting the ball in a place where only Fields could catch it. All in all, I think it was a decent day for the New York Giants on defense and on offense. These are limited repetitions that each team are playing their starters. But as you see, Beckham is rocking the number 3. I do believe that in time, the number 13 may become available again, assuming Jalen Hyatt doesn't make this team. And I have no reason to believe that Jalen Hyatt is high on anybody's wish list or even on that depth chart currently for the Giants. What did I like out of Minnesota? I thought Carson Wentz played well. I thought Kyler Murray played under control. Of course, Kyler Murray is going to be the starter there. And I believe that this is a team that could potentially be heard from. You know, after Kevin O'Connell's offense took a massive step back with J.J. McCarthy after reviving Sam Darnold's career, I think this is a great opportunity for Minnesota, O'Connell in particular, to revitalize Kyler Murray's career. I think this Vikings team is low-key under the radar, and I did pick them on our North show to win the division. We'll see how that plays out. I thought Cam Scatterbo in his first action since the middle of last season when he had a season-ending injury in Philadelphia showed up and played well. And like I said, it is just game 1, but football is back, and it's exciting to see Odell Beckham Jr. back in a Giants uniform. I truly cannot believe that it's a real thing. Yesterday, Major League Baseball history was made. This is a terrific story. That, folks, is Joshua Baez, called up for his first Major League game by the St. Louis Cardinals, playing their forever rivals, the Chicago Cubs, in historic Wrigley Field. Matthew Boyd was the victim 3 times. That is a Major League record for home runs in one game. His first 3 at-bats of his career, he took Boyd deep all 3 times. The first homer came on the very first pitch. This is a kid who taught English, learned English, and taught English to himself predominantly on his own. He was born in the Massachusetts area, but moved back at an early age to Santo Domingo. His late father, it was a dream of his to play in the show, Major League Baseball, to be a part of Major League Baseball. His dream never came to fruition. And I gotta shout out the Cubs fans for showing this kid love despite the rivalry, realizing that they were witnessing baseball greatness and baseball history. I think it was a really nice touch by the Cub fans. Shows how classy the Cub fans really are. And Joshua Baez, the greatest premiere, the greatest start to any Major League Baseball career of a position player. This was truly phenomenal to watch. I've seen the clips on YouTube and on MLB.com multiple times. Definitely give this a look. And, you know, this is the fun part of baseball where you get a lot of kids coming up either at or right before the September call-ups. But this is a great start to a potentially great career And Carlos Marmol, who is the manager of the Cardinals, was incredibly excited, and you can see why. So congrats to him. Really good stuff. Want to hit on my New York Yankees avoiding a sweep today, and a bit of a wacky game. Jose Caballero caught up in a rundown, tried to free up Jazz Chisholm from third to home. Almost succeeded. They had to review a call. The Yankees ultimately took the lead because of Caballero's hit, but were not able to get the second run. Fast forward to the ninth inning, David Bednar paid the price due to a Ben Rice error. Ben Rice has been pretty sure-handed at first base this year, but unfortunately today, just a bad bounce. And it's hard when you got to get 4 outs. Ernie Clement ultimately tied the game on a sac fly, and Bednar got out of trouble. George Lombard barely missing a home run today, but a good game from him, as he's looking very much like a guy who's going to be a star for this Yankees lineup for years to come. Tim Hill was ultimately able to get the save, and why was he able to get the save? It's because Ben Rice atoned for his earlier mistake in the 10th inning. Huge 2-run blast, and that is the difference. The Yankees ultimately did give up a run in the bottom half of the 10th, but were able to hold on 4-3. It's still a lot of the same stuff with the Yankees, though. They're still struggling to score runs. I'm very thankful that Ben Rice was able to get a hold of one, but going into the 7th inning, the Yankees only had 1 run. And even if you back it up to the game they had won against the Mariners earlier last week, where they put up 10 runs, that game was tied in the 7th. This is a team that is still struggling for offense. Giancarlo Stanton's still waiting for him. Aaron Judge could be late September. We really don't know what's going on with Judge, if we're going to be completely honest. And Cody Bellinger is still looking at a few weeks. So the Yankees just have to continue to thug it out and hope that they can complement their pitching a little, because the pitching has been outstanding. In any other season, I wholeheartedly believe that the Yankees will probably have at least 10 more wins with how good their pitching's been. But when you're having historically bad offense, there's only so much your pitching can do. And, that leads to a lot of nail biters, a lot of tough losses. And when you are struggling to put up offensive runs in baseball, you cannot afford any defensive mistakes. And the Yankees, unfortunately, have made a little bit too many of them. I do feel good about the upgrade at shortstop with George Lombard. Quite frankly, he looks like a natural. And I was talking to my barber today, and we both kind of landed on who Lombard reminds us of. Stance-wise, with the bat, he kind of reminds us of Troy Tulowitzki. Defensively and just his overall demeanor, his overall swag, definitely a little bit of Derek Jeter, but Lombard is here to stay. David Bednar did his job. Like I said, he should have got 3 outs instead of having to get 4. So he gets credited the win and the blown save, one of the same. Tim Hill gets the save in a rare opportunity to pick up a save. Tim Hill takes advantage of that. Possibly tomorrow, I'm going to keep everybody in the know. We're going to be rolling out our 2026 NFC East preview. I am in the midst of putting that show together. Dallas Cowboys, did they do enough to address the defense? As their offense speaks for itself, they were a very good offensive unit last year. I personally think they had a hell of a draft when you consider they got Malachi Lawrence out of the University of Central Florida, which is not far from where I am right now. Sonny Styles out of Ohio State, another quality pickup. Dallas definitely gave love to their defense. A.J. Brown out in Philadelphia, as he was a bit of a headache over the last couple of seasons for the Eagles, not happy with his offensive role. So we're going to find out how the Eagles look. They've also had a couple of losses on the defensive side of the ball, but the Philadelphia Eagles, Howie Roseman particularly, has always been good at replenishing talent and doing things that help that system. New York Football Giants, John Harbaugh, first year in charge with New York. He's never had a season less than 8 wins. I mentioned at the top of this show, Odell Beckham Jr. is back in blue. Cam Scatterbo coming off a very promising rookie season, as well as his best bud on the team, Jackson Dart, year 2. Jackson Dart is a franchise quarterback. Big question going into the season is, can he avoid the blue tent? Another big question, can Malik Neighbors return to form after coming off a very severe knee injury? And who's going to step up into the 2, 3, and such realms of this depth chart? Is it going to be Darnell Mooney? Is it going to be Malachi Fields? There's plenty of traffic in that Giants wide receiver room. And of course, as cutdowns continue, as the season gets closer, we're going to find out who makes the team. I personally think Odell Beckham's doing a great job. I think he's going to make the team. Malachi Fields goes without saying. He was a big pickup for them. They chose not to go with Caleb Downs, instead Francis Mayagoa out of Miami. They wanted to shore up the offensive line. It was a little controversial. Arvell Reese, Brian Burns, Tremaine Edmonds. Definitely a new look defense. Micah McFadden is back after being out of action since week 1 last year. I think the big question for the Giants is going to be that secondary, particularly the corners. So we're going to find out what that looks like. They actually brought in a litany of corners to look at recently. So we're going to find out if any more additions are made. Last but not least, Washington Commanders. Big question year for them, too. Is Dan Quinn going to be on the hot seat if they get off to another bad start? Jaden Daniels, a couple of years removed from his Rookie of the Year campaign, playing at an MVP level. Can he stay healthy? Will the addition of Stephon Diggs be what it was to Jaden Daniels that it was for Drake May? And did they do enough on that defensive side of the ball? They obviously drafted a great one in Sonny Styles. A lot of questions to be answered on the NFC East preview. Announcements to come for that show. If you haven't already, please make it a point to check out The Real Bosco Productions on Bandcamp. That is my co-host, Idris Salam. Check out his work. Man's been busy in the studio doing a lot of music. Check out our friends at the Casual Convo Show every Monday and Wednesday, 8 to 10 p.m., as well as the Basement Show with Johnny Nast. I'm going to speak to him before tomorrow, see if he's going to join for the NFC East preview. We are, 4 down, 4 to go. We've already got 4 divisional previews done, both South divisions and both North divisions. So if you haven't already, check out the catalog to see what we've been doing over there. But until next time, I am Richie. Have a great rest of your Sunday. And last thought, I know basketball season's over. The new season is not far away. But until then, it is and will forever be Knicks in 5. Have a great day.
Big energy, we ain't playing nice. Kings of New York, ain't no rolling dice. Flexing on these bitches, we the real deal. Ain't no stopping us, this is how we feel. The Bronx, Manhattan, Brooklyn, the island of Queens, we ballin' hard. Fulfilling all our dreams, thugging through the hustle. Got that grit and grind in this big Nick energy, we forever shine. So let them know we rockin'. From the garden to the booth, Knicks in the building, bringing straight up truth. With our heads held high, watch us rise and transcend. Big Nick energy, this is just the beginning.